Next up, taking a peek at the steering wheel as well as the cluster screen inside of the Kia Carnival. This is the 12.3-inch digital screen, but if you're looking for the smaller screen instead, you'll be able to find that walkthrough down in the description. But first thing I'm going to point out is that this thing is nice all around, but the steering wheel is heated. There's a button just down the center stack there that you can push in order to toggle it on or off. It's also a manual telescoping steering wheel. So just by your left knee, there's a release there. You're going to drop down and it's telescoping manual. So you can go in, out, up and down to create that perfect position. Once you find it, just going to click it in order to lock it back into place. Now, a series of different pads there, which I'll touch on as we get closer, but I'm going to start off with the sticks along the side. So you can rotate along the side there in order to figure out what's going on with your lamps. I honestly always just recommend keeping it in the auto mode. You can flash your high beams out that way if you want to, and then you can flip away to put it into an auto mode. And what that mode does is if the vehicle recognizes that the high beams are needed, it's automatically going to turn them on. And then if the vehicle recognizes somebody oncoming, it's automatically going to dim them, and then it's going to bring them right back on again when you're in that auto mode. You can flip away, but if you want to permanently lock out your high beams, get into the top mode there instead. And then you can push away to lock the high beams on, pull towards you in order to turn them off again. Like I said, just go back into that auto mode. You can also adjust what's going on with your fog lamps, so whether or not those are on or off. And then another cool thing, you've also got the blind view monitor instead. So there's a side mounted camera, and then on both the left or right side, it's going to show right in the cluster screen if there's anything going on. I love it. It's so useful because you have the little indicator on the side view mirrors to let you know if there's somebody there, but actually being able to see what's going on in your blind spot, I think is really cool. The only way I think Kia could step this up is if they were to also include video recording there as well for that full 360 camera. I think that would be amazing. But I love that the feature is at least there. Stick on the right-hand side. There are also going to be the flexibility of adjusting on the tip there, your rear wiper, so you can go high-low. You've also got your front wiper support there. So you've got individual levels there. Then when you're on intermittent, it's how fast or slow does that intermittent setting go instead. You're going to pull towards you for the front wiper fluid to come on, and you're going to push away for that rear wiper fluid to come on instead. It's nice. Yeah, steering wheel inside of this thing is great, but let's navigate you through all of the different buttons that are available there. So starting off on the left pad, you've got a voice command prompt. So be able to do things like change songs, stations, you can navigate using your voice. If you're hooked up through Android or iPhone devices, so Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, whatever the case may be, or even just over Bluetooth, you can also do a longer press and hold of that button in order for it to be able to activate either your Siri or your Google Assistant instead. There's a mode button there, and that's going to let you, so you can kind of see, moving between AM, FM, Sirius XM, different apps, whatever the case may be. Then there's also a volume rocker, so you can adjust your volume by going up and down this way. You can also push in the middle there if you wanted to be able to mute the audio. There's also this button, which is going to let you go between all of your different stations or presets, whatever the case may be. So it depends on which source you're in under mode. So on mode right now, we're on FM. So if we were to drop down, you can see there, jumping between all available presets there. And then if you wanted to, when you're on AM, FM, or Sirius XM, you could also do a press and hold up or down for it to be able to seek instead. The seek is a little bit messy, so what I'd usually recommend is just push the voice command prompt to change stations that way, but that is available if you need it. You can answer or hang up on a phone call, and then there's also a unique button that's going to give you the flexibility to do a few things. So depending on how you have it set up inside of that cluster screen. Pad along the right-hand side is going to be for a few other things. So this is a basic pages button to navigate you through a few different options that are available on the cluster. And then this one is going to be to go up and down, and then you can press and hold the OK button there to get to some additional settings. These buttons along the right side are going to be for the adaptive cruise control system. So this one's going to toggle cruise control on. Once you get to the speed you'd like, you're going to push up and down in order to be able to increase or decrease 1 kilometer or 1 mile per hour at a time, and also up in order to set. And then this is a distance indicator. So with the adaptive cruise control system going, it's how close or far away do you want to be from the vehicle that's in front of you. And then this one is the lane, so it's essentially a lane centering system. So it's going to keep you perfectly balanced in your lane. And that's very different from the lane keeping system. Can you see it there? Yeah, that little guy. So that's going to be very different from that lane keep assist system instead. So that lane keep assist is going to nudge the steering wheel, or I should say shake the steering wheel, versus the lane centering system is going to keep you perfectly balanced in your lane instead. It is a beautiful system. But if you want to walk through on how the adaptive cruise control system works, you'll find it down in the description of this video. So next up is going to be inside of the actual cluster screen. And as I move around, I'm just going to be using the pages button there and then the up and down. But first thing to point out, you've got your fuel gauge along the left side with how many kilometers or miles you are to empty. Do you want to be, so you've got your current digital speed there, and then your tachometer there as well. So what RPM are you going at? If you're in park, reverse, neutral, drive, so whatever gear you're in. And then you've also got current outside temperature. This is going to be the current fuel usage that you're using. So currently looking at 13.1 liters per 100. So I'm just sitting here with the car on doing this review. But this is an adaptive gauge. So what's going to happen is as you hammer on the accelerator as you're driving, you're going to notice this move up or down. So that's essentially going to be your driving habits. Because as you can see right there, there's a little notch, and that essentially represents the current fuel consumption of 13.1. But obviously that's going to be miles per gallon, whatever the case may be. Along the bottom right side is going to be the total distance that the vehicle's currently traveled. And then along the top there are some additional options. So if you've got the different centering systems and things like that turned on, whether or not those icons are showing up, and then you've got a series of additional pages. So first one I guess there is going to be for additional settings. So you push and hold the OK button there to launch into additional settings, and that's all through the infotainment system there. But there are a ton of different options for vehicle settings, safety settings, and things like that. But you'll find a walkthrough of all of these additional settings down in the description. On top of that, so moving down, there is the attention level. So if you start to veer over too many times without signaling, riding the line, you get in that steering wheel vibration. Eventually, this counter is going to tell you that you should probably take a break. But through the infotainment system, you do have the flexibility of turning this thing off if you really wanted to. Moving through to the next page, you've got a few sub options. So you've got your drive info, your since refueling and accumulated info, and then your another version of the digital speed. So your drive information there, you can push and hold OK to reset, but that's since the vehicle was last turned off. From there, it's since you last filled the vehicle up. That one is going to be your total accumulated info. So all of these counters, you've got the flexibility of resetting by just pushing and holding the OK button there. And that resets them. You can do it for all three of those settings. So again, it's since the vehicle was last turned on, since you last refueled, and then your total accumulated info. So think of it like your trip counter essentially, that you can easily reset that way. From there, you've also got your compass. Now this thing also does have factory navigation. And if you had, I'm just gonna get a map set up. We're gonna go map, search for an address, point of interest icons, and hold on, I'll push off to the side so you can see what I'm doing. I'm gonna look for coffee shop. Let's find one and set as destination and start. So it's not full mapping cluster, but I mean, that is still pretty useful at the same time, so you can see what directions you have to take in order to get to your end destination. It's nice. I would love it if it was full mapping cluster, but still, I'll take that. That's pretty good. Then you can easily cancel the route out there as well. I like that. From there, the other one is going to be tire pressure, which is not going to display until you start driving. Now this display is also a little bit unique. It's essentially going to be the dynamic display because inside of the clusters or the infotainment system, you've got the option of setting up you've got the option of setting up unique looks. So if we go setup, screen layout, you've got the option of looking at a few different things. So you've got link to drive mode. So if we go link to drive mode, and then we adjust the drive mode out. So you've got 4 individual modes. So you've got your normal mode look. There's the eco mode. There's the sport mode, which is my favorite mode, but I love that look. Just so much more aggressive in comparison. As aggressive as this van can be, but still it's kind of neat. And then from there, there's also smart mode. So each mode does do something different. Like sport mode is going to hold on to the RPMs a little bit longer. So it's going to give you a sportier performance as you drive. But you could lock it out to that drive mode, or you can enter that dynamic mode. So if you wanted to lock it out to an individual mode, you could, but the dynamic mode is really neat, especially later on at night, because what this mode actually does is when it gets later on, it's actually going to go from this beautiful blue screen into like a darker atmosphere instead. It is a really, really neat one. I'll have a little overlay going showing it, but it's pretty cool at the same time. So I know that that's quite a little bit of information, but that's everything that you need to know about the steering wheel as well as the cluster screen inside of the Kia Carnival.